Hello and welcome to Conversations with Nurit. I am Nurit, speaking to you from Budapest, Hungary. And my guest today is Cheryl Abram. And she is talking to us from Northern Virginia. And I just recently met her through emails, actually, my first meeting of you. And I am absolutely delighted because I just read your book. Her book is called Firing God. How about that for a title? Yeah. And if you're religious, don't worry, it's not what you think. It's literally not what you think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I feel very qualified to interview you about that topic because I was born and raised with absolutely no religion.
Okay, great.
In a country like Israel where all the religions are gathered and trying to compete. So anyhow, so Cheryl, it is such a wonderful opportunity to speak with you after reading your book. It is so good. Your book is so good. There's no fluff. There's no ne-ne-ne in it. It goes right to the point. You give enough background so we know where you're coming from,
right.
And to prepare us for where you're going to. But you give so much of who you are, who you really are in the book. And there's I found so many parallels to my life, to other people that I know, and actually it's very similar to my book in a way because my path was very similar.
Yes.
So it's really wonderful. I highly recommend anyone who's, even if you're not on a spiritual path or have nothing to do with religion, it's a wonderful book to read because there's so much about life and how life shapes us and what to do with it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So having said that, I wanted to start with something so wonderful right from the beginning. Like I said, I kept marking the whole book everywhere. Oh, this is good. It's like, you know, in Budapest, you can't go with a camera because you don't know where to shoot first. It's so beautiful.
Right.
Your book is. Everywhere I look, there's another, oh, well, this is a good quote, or that's a good quote.
Mm-hmm.
But the first thing I found was life is all about solving problems and getting more.
Yes.
Problems were ever present, so getting more of anything, education, status, money, confidence, to help solve my problems was the fuel that propelled me through each day. Wow. Yeah. Tell us about that. Seems like that was your beginning.
It really was. So having grown up as Southern Baptist, you know, Southern Louisiana, on a very large, very beautiful plantation with my cousins and, you know, aunts and uncles and things like that. Very early on, I learned that we didn't have enough. All right. I learned that there was more out there that was available to us. So very early on, my goal was to get more of whatever that was, because what I had just wasn't enough. Clearly, what I was seeing and hearing, you know, in every aspect of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I did. Like, that's how I lived, just seeking more and more and more.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then you talk a little bit about, I love it, about your grandmother. You call her Gamula, did I say it right?
Gamala, yeah.
Gamala, okay, Gamala.
Yeah. Gamala was awesome. She was my father's mother.
Uh-huh.
And she lived in the city, if you can call where she lived the city. Well, compared to where I lived in the country, you know, that was pretty much a big city. Yeah, she was awesome. And around her, around Gamala, everything was enough. Like, even if, you know, I didn't get candy, but I had sugar in my water, and I just drank that because we couldn't afford candy. That was good enough. Like, that was fine, you know?
Yeah.
So I was never, with her, I never got the impression of being pushed or propelled to do more, be more, get more. You know, it was just very, and from the little that we did have, you know, she was just happy to share, you know, so it was just sharing and loving, and, you know, that's how I think of her, you know, when I think of her.
Yeah, you really portray a wonderful relationship with her that is kind of juxtaposed against the experience that was about to come after she passed. And you say Gamala's loving presence in that house when you went to see her made it my sacred temple. She was where I saw and experienced unconditional love.
Mm-hmm.
And then and then when after she passed, you say, in church, I discovered that I was one of the lost ones.
Mm-hmm.
I found out that I was unworthy of God's love because I was a sinner who deserved to die and face the worst kind of torture for eternity.
Yeah.
Thank God she never went to church.
Exactly.
I love it. Tell me about how that affected you, that huge contrast.
Oh, wow. Going from being just fine, whichever way I was, you know, it really didn't matter, to it does matter. You're not just fine. There's more that you need to be. And that was like just getting, you know, a bucket of cold water, just, you know, thrown on you. It was shocking. It was uncomfortable. There was a lot of resentment there too.
Mm-hmm.
There was just a lot of anger even, but that I eventually had to hide, you know, because, you know, you can't be angry at the ultimate authority who's saying this is the way it is, you know. Yeah, so it was very shocking, and but I had to do it, you know. I didn't want to be the terrible being that I was, you know, that I was told that I was. I didn't want to be that. I wanted to be something better than that. So I had to do what I had to do to be better.
Right. But it's good that you write about it. I think people are becoming more and more aware of the negative influences that society and religion has on us, especially as children. We're so impressionable.
Yes.
And especially someone like you who had such a great example of what unconditional love really is.
Right, exactly.
We're told it is, but what we experience it is.
Right.
So I really appreciated that. You describe your childhood so in such a visceral and realistic, real way. I could feel it when I was reading it. This little girl.
Yeah.
You know, you say when you talked about how you discovered sin and unworthiness, it's absolutely remarkable to me. You say, I didn't know I was unworthy. How would I know? I've never seen, tasted, or touched unworthiness. I could describe the soft, sandy, papery feel of a dragonfly's wing or the silky squishiness of mud between my toes, but I could not describe unworthiness. Absolutely fantastic how you talk about it. You bring it into the experiential in a very tangible way. What was that like for you, discovering those feelings?
It was. I mean, I just had to trust it. I just, like I said, there was no evidence. There was no evidence that I was sinful and unworthy and in need of salvation. I mean, there was no evidence of that at all. I didn't know what that was, but people, you know, very authority figures that I loved and trusted, you know, they believed this, you know, greatly, and they had shaped their lives around this belief. So it had to be true. I mean, you know, I know these people love me. I know that they want what's best for me. They're not going to tell me something that's not true. So, you know, I just, with no evidence whatsoever, I just had to believe it. You know, I had to. And there, if I believed it, there were a lot of goodies at the end of that road, you know. So it behooved me to, if I wanted to get more, as I knew, you know, I knew that more was out there for me to get, then following this belief system was going to be the way that I would get that. Yeah.
It's almost a built-in expectation,
Mm-hmm.
which really is one of the detriments in our search,
Yes.
which we'll get to soon in the story. Yeah. I loved also how you talked about the puzzle. If no piece of the puzzle is missing, what are we looking for?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And that actually, when I wrote that, a lot of the stuff I write and that I wrote, I would write it and not really completely understand like what that meant. So when I said you have to, if anything is going to be missing at all, you have to make it first. Okay. Then it can go missing, right? So the chapter on making what's missing was revealing to me, you know, as I was writing, because I'm thinking, man, that's like exactly what I'm doing. You know, I have to make what's lacking, but before I can lack it, right?
Yeah, you talk about sin that way, missing the mark.
Mm-hmm.
Was that the discovery of that? Is that what you're referring to?
Right. So sin, you know, I grew up thinking that sin was just, it was about behavior. It was about, these are things that you should not do because, you know, God doesn't like them. It's not good. Christians don't do that. It's just, it's behavior, right? It's those sorts of things. So just re-looking at that entire thing, I just discovered that, you know, it's got nothing to do with behavior at all. And it's like a natural thing that we're just calling sin. We could call it something else. We call it living or breathing. I mean, whatever, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Because there's no mark to miss, right? There's nothing there to miss, right? So I have to make it first, then I can miss it, right? I have to say, this is the bullseye. Now do my living and see all the ways I'm missing that, right?
Mm-hmm. How did you arrive at that? How did you, what caused you to realize that all of this, that, because usually when people are so knee deep into their stuff and into their beliefs and concepts, it's very hard to see through that. What do you think helped you see through that?
If I had to point to an experience that helped me to see that, then it would be the experience I had when I was at work. Mm-hmm. And you know, I talk about it in the book, how I was terrified and didn't know why my heart was beating and my hands were sweaty and I just didn't know what was going on. I thought I was dying. And then all of a sudden, everything was just so clear. You know, I didn't need witnesses. I didn't need confirmation. I just knew. I just knew. And that was it, right? So, and I don't know how or why that occurred. I don't know, because I ask myself too, when I think back, and it's getting a little bit harder to really think back to, you know, the way I used to believe and the things I used to depend on. But like you said, it was so deep. I mean, the roots were so deep. Mm-hmm. I don't see how I'm not still in that place, you know, other than that, whatever that was, just uprooting all of that, you know, and just seeing that that's not the case at all, Cheryl, you know, that's really not the case. So it was that experience that really, and from there, because that wasn't it. I mean, from there, it was just a terrifyingly horrible journey to to discovery, and just letting other things in, you know. So
What was that journey about? The terrible journey.
the terrible journey is looking at the feelings that I had about various things, looking at the ways I needed, not just that I did, but I absolutely needed to blame someone or give credit to someone else for things. It was taking all of that back and just leaving it right here with Cheryl. That was painful. I mean physically painful. That hurt a lot. It really, really did. But I just come to a point to where I was willing to do it. I was willing to withstand the pain and just take it, because what was going on for me, you know, as a Christian and trying to be better and get better and asking for forgiveness every day and for God to do this, that, and the other thing, that wasn't working for me. I couldn't do that anymore, right? I couldn't do it anymore. Yeah. So whatever happened just had to happen, because where I was before was not acceptable to me anymore.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of support did you have? I mean, this must have been so difficult, because everyone around you couldn't understand you, I'm sure, because unless you're going through that, you don't really know what that is like.
Right. So I tried to reach out to various people that I would have gone to if I had any other issue. So I went to my pastor at the time to try to talk to him. I went to some folks in my family to try to speak with them, but I was getting the same stuff. I was getting the just pray about it, and you know, this is a test and God's doing this, and you know, you're going to come out on the other end. He'll never put more on you than you can bear. I mean, scriptures and platitudes and you know, all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. I was not there anymore. That was not helping me at all. So it was just me. It was me and my writing. Like, that's when I started blogging. My blog was I didn't publish it for a very long time, because the things that I was writing were just crazy. They were absolutely ridiculous. You know, they made no sense whatsoever. But that's all I had. All I had was the craziness that was going around in my mind, and I had to get it out some way, so I just started writing about it.
Mm-hmm. You really had no guidance.
No.
You had to rely totally on your own experience, which is really wonderful in a way, because there's a lot of stuff out there today, new age stuff. People believe in just like that because somebody with credentials said so.
Right. And I actually, when I had that experience at my job, I ran home, like at the end of the day, and I went to my computer and I typed in, what did I type in? It was like already in eternity or something like that. I started Googling, right? Because I was thinking, there is no way in the world that no one else has experienced this before, you know? Because it was awesome. Like, it was an amazing thing to see, you know, that there's nothing that we need to do. You know, we're working too hard, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm typing it in and some things come up. So I saw, I've been listening to Wayne Dyer, right? Oh, yeah. Who I really love. And I was able to grasp what he was saying, okay? But that's not what it was, like something, so I had to let that go. Mm-hmm. And then I discovered someone called Osho, right? Okay. And I listened to him a couple times, but I had no idea what that guy was talking about. So I was like, I just didn't get it. I didn't get anything he was saying. So I looked for some other people. Who else? I discovered Muji. Mm-hmm. And he was, you know, I didn't really get it from him. I knew they were saying something. I just didn't know what it was, you know? And so there were these various people, but honestly, what I was really looking for was another Black female. That someone I could identify with, because I felt like, okay, she would know like what I'm going through here. She would know that I don't have time for spiritual stuff. Like I have kids and bills and I'm going through a divorce. My house is being foreclosed. I don't have time to do all this. You know, I have more important things to take care of, you know, instead of looking for myself or whatever that means, you know. That's not going to pay my bills, right? I'll take care of that later. So I just wanted, I just needed someone I could identify with, just to, you know, to sit down and talk, you know, someone who would understand. And I didn't really see that out there. So, you know, it just had to be me and me.
Yeah, yeah, that's wonderful. There's so much out there that there's so many teachers and so many teachings out there that talk about.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I'm hearing you say, is that it takes time to listen to something about something.
Yeah.
It's your own experience, and you incorporate it in your life like you have, and like you describe in your book. I mean, you talk about motherhood, you talk about daughterhood, you talk about sisterhood. You've incorporated all of this in your life, so it's really not in time.
Right.
You didn't leave it as a separate event that you think about or talk about.
Exactly.
It's actually your experience, and that's why I love about your book so much. It's very inspiring in that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I had to, because I was still at the so what. We're all one. There's nothing to do. You know, everything is beautiful. There's no sin. There's no this. There's no that. And so what? You know, I'm still getting kicked out of my house. So what? You know? So I really, and I still am to this day, looking at the so what, you know, and in different ways, I'm discovering the so what, you know, and in that, something else I really did notice was that all of that stuff that I was going through, every way that I felt about myself, whether I was at a point where I felt really unworthy or really divine, like it really didn't matter, in all those instances, every single instance, every situation, I was still me. Nothing had changed about me. You know, there was something there that was the same, right? Which made all that stuff okay. I feel unworthy and terrible and sinful. Okay, you know, that's okay. I feel that way. I can admit I feel that way. All right, now I can move on. Now I can be something else if I want to. But I need to be okay right now, and not try to be something else, you know, because trying isn't needed. I don't need to try, you know. So it was just recognizing right now that Cheryl is just fine. Whatever it is, you know, whoever she is, it's okay. Now I can move on to the next, it's okay. And the next, it's okay, you know, and like that. So, and that's really freed me. That's really freed me to live, I guess, and do so without being so fearful, of the next step, of what time would bring, you know, tomorrow and the next day and the next day.
That's a wonderful place to be when, you know, I don't know if you're familiar with Krishnamurti. I don't know if you've heard of him. He was an Indian teacher, and at one point he said that his greatest secret was that I don't mind what happens to me. And I was hearing that in your writing at some point when you arrived at that place where it felt the same way to me.
Right. And that, it seems simple, I guess, but to be, and I wrote the book, and I said that when I wrote the book, I was still in a terrible place. Like I didn't have my children with me. Like I said, my divorce was still going on, and it was horrible. You know, I hated my husband. I mean, all of that stuff was still going on when I wrote this book, because I really wanted to demonstrate that it's fine. Like it hurts. I'm crying almost every night. I'm sad about my kids. I don't know how I'm going to pay this bill, but it's all right. I mean, it's really all right. Like, that's not just saying that, it's all right, you know. And, you know, something will come up, or it won't. I lost the house, you know, which is that it happens. That stuff just happens. But I remain the same. I was not diminished or increased in any way by any of that stuff that happened. I'm still the same.
Mhm. That's wonderful. And tell us about that firing of God, that episode. I love it. I want to hear it in your words. That dramatic moment.
Right. It was, I mean, it was a lot of drama that day. Like, it really was. I could have gotten an Oscar for that, I think. Oh my God. I was so fed up. I mean, you know, so what happened that day was, I was at work. I came home and went in my kitchen. I mean, just mail all over the place, bills and summons to appear in court, just all kind. I didn't even open it. You know, I went back to my room, and at the church that I've been going to, the pastor was having a Bible study, and he gave us all a book to read. You know, and I love Bible studies. You know, I really did enjoy going to church and, you know, delving into the scripture and hearing people's stories, and, you know, us each encouraging each other to make it through, you know, one more day, just lean on the Lord, you know, and he'll be there for us. So I enjoy Bible study. I really did. So I went in and I said, well, let me read this book. Because in the past, you know, I would read people's stories who'd been through terrible things.
Yeah.
And they write these books, you know, and they say, this is how I made it through. You know, I needed to hear that from someone else, because I wasn't there yet.
Mm-hmm.
But hearing it from someone else would encourage me to, you know, just keep doing what you're doing, you know, keep depending on God, and things would be all right. Mm-hmm. So I started reading the book, and the person who wrote the book said something about, you know, we need to get right with God. And that begins with even small things like getting rid of Stephen King books in your house and getting the evil spirits out and stuff like that. So I've been a Christian for years. This was not the first time that I'd heard or read that, you know, but for some reason, when I read it this time, it terrified me. I was so afraid. And that fear transitioned into the hottest anger I have ever felt, because I said, you know what? I need help. Like, I am so low right now. I can't get any lower. And here I am, trying my best again, going to God again. And it's, Cheryl, you're not good enough yet. You know, you got to do one more thing, you know, because I want to help you. I really do. But you need to get in a place where I can do that. And I was done. I said, you know what? I'm finished. There was a Bible next to me. I threw the book on the ground. I threw the Bible on the ground. I'm telling you, it was dramatic. I threw the Bible on the ground. I was like, I'm done. I'm done with you. I just don't want anything else to do with you. I don't love you. While I'm at it, let me tell you the truth. I don't love you. I don't know you. And you can just fuck off, you know? And I meant that. I was terrified while I was saying it, because you're not supposed to talk to God that way. But at that moment, the only thing I had left was my honesty. All I could do was be honest in that moment. That's it. I was done after that. The tank was empty after I was finally honest. And I have to tell you, I was expecting lightning to come through the window, but instead I got this amazing sense of being released from chains. Wow. And it was unexpected and absolutely beautiful.
Yeah,
It really was.
It's interesting because you say earlier in the book, you say God is a mark. When you talk about the marks that you were making up, you're saying God is a mark, just like every other mark that I've made. In fact, God was a culmination of all the marks I've made.
Exactly.
So it sounds to me, correct me if I'm wrong, that at that moment, because God was a culmination for you, you released all of the marks.
Yep. I said, I'm done. I'm
Yeah.
finished.
Yeah.
You know,
And
yeah.
yeah, it feels to me like you, instead of, when you're talking about we're supposed to lean on God,
Mhm.
you let go of leaning on the concept of God
Right.
and started to lean on your own being.
Exactly. I didn't know, like in the moment, I had no idea what was going on, right? I just knew that I was finished. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't concepts and all this other kind of stuff that I know now. I didn't know that then.
Of
I
course.
just knew where I was in that moment, and it wasn't working for me. I was finished with it. And I was willing to do whatever was needed at that moment, even if that meant letting go of all of that stuff. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic. I applaud your courage and your honesty throughout the book. What struck me so much is this girl is so honest.
Yeah, I found I had to be, because I've been suppressing so much for so long, feelings and thoughts, because I wasn't supposed to feel or think that way.
You're right.
I was supposed to think better thoughts, or more holy thoughts, or whatever. The way I was thinking, that was just a testament to my innate evilness, all of these feelings and thoughts and stuff that I shouldn't have been having, and I didn't want to be evil. I didn't want to be that, so I had to stuff that down and replace it with the way I should be, but at that moment, the top was off, so the top was off, Pandora's box was open and nobody could close it again.
That's wonderful. I hope the Pope doesn't see this video. We don't want you to get into trouble. Anyways, this kind of leads me to something else that you wrote, and this is to me the heart of your findings or what you've become. When you say this present moment is not missing, nor is it missing anything. You don't need to read about it, ask someone's opinion, or meditate to get there. No one has to sacrifice themselves or die to obtain presence. I don't have to go through someone in order to get to this present moment. It's all here, simple and ordinary, and it does not belong to anyone.
Exactly. Right.
So would you say was that your transition after firing God to being able to live that way? How was that for you?
It was getting to that place, because in firing God, like when I said those words, I was angry, I was fed up, I was willing to do whatever I needed to do. But at the same time, there was an incredible feeling of loss. I had just given up the love of God. I'd just given up, I was one of his favorites. I'd just given that up. I'd given up eternal life. I'd thrown away eternal life, and the incredible feeling of loss was terrible. But if I could have gone back, if I could have taken those words back, if I could have picked the Bible back up and gone back to church and said, you know what, I made a mistake, this is where I need to be, I would have done that. But I couldn't do any of that because it wasn't there anymore. Whatever was there before, when I really honestly said I'm done, there was nothing to go back to. And I remember calling my sister, and I told her that. I said, I can't go back to Christianity. It was terrifying. It was terrifying because there was nothing behind me, and I had no idea what was ahead of me. So I was in a place, it was very, very scary. But all I could do was go forward and see, what was in store. And that's what I did. That's what I did. And in that going forward, I finally discovered there was nowhere to go. I didn't have to go anywhere. It was fine, like right there, at that moment. So there was no need to be scared or any of that stuff.
Mm.
It's right here, and it was here all the time.
Yeah. 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 So where are you now?
Now where am I now? I'm just where I am now. Because I don't know. I'm happy to tell my story. I'm very happy to do that, and happy to encourage others to tell their story wherever they are now.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to change it. I'm happy to share that. Everything is fine right now, whatever that story may be.
Mm-hmm.
Because I saw that in me thinking the story needed to change. It needed to be more enlightened, more holy, more whatever, was where the problem was. Trying to be something else. But now that I see I don't have to do that, I can do that. Like I can be something else. I can do something else. I can think a different way, and do so more naturally, a way that's more in line with who I actually am, and not who I'm trying to be.
It's wonderful. Yeah. There's more and more teachers and students that are coming to my awareness that are now saying that one of the biggest obstacles in spirituality is the search itself.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, I'm reading that in your book. You discovered that on your own, and I have to applaud you. I don't know how you did it on your own. Maybe it's the suffering.
Well, you know what? I was reading, and maybe it was a video I watched or something, but somebody, and I read this a lot. Folks were saying they were on the spiritual search for like 40 years and 50 years, and I'm reading that. I'm like, listen, if I have to be this frustrated for 40 years, I'm going to choke myself. There is no way in the world I'm going to be in this area of frustration for that long.
That was me.
That was you.
That was me. That's what.
I'm glad you made it through. Because
You probably heard it from Robert, our mutual friend.
No, it was way before I met Robert, but yeah. Maybe it was Rupert Spira. I think I heard him say he'd been doing something for and I was thinking I wanted to, because I was hearing, they went to India forever and they go on retreats for a week and all this. I was not privileged enough to do all that. I had to go to work the next day. I couldn't take these pilgrimages and all, pay all this money to go to Hawaii for the whatever. I couldn't do that, so it was me in my living room, with my kids screaming around me, that's where it had to happen. It had to happen there, but whatever was going on was very kind to my role as a mother and my entire situation, because I found that I actually did have time, to be in quiet spaces and just cry my eyes out when I wanted to and not have to worry about the kids. So things were just set up that at the time I saw it as terrible because I wanted to be with my children, but them not being there really kind of was like that retreat for me, but so it worked itself out, and I didn't have to fly all over the place and go to different places and, sit in cabins forever and, all that stuff. So yeah, so it worked itself out.
Good. You were on a fast train.
Yeah.
Have to do the 40 years that I did. That's why I thought you must have read my book, because I went to India and I did the 40 years.
Oh, in India? Wow.
Yeah, you didn't have to do that. Obviously, life did it for you. And,
yeah, absolutely right. And it may, because like I said, I don't know. Like I don't know. I just knew that there was just a deep willingness and So the willingness to do whatever needed to be done, to find whatever needed to be found, you know, or whatever, that was proportionate to the extreme terror that I felt.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about as if a werewolf would walk into this room and my heart would just, I mean, real, and nothing would be happening. You know, I remember lying in my bed, just screaming in my head. There was nothing going on, but I would read something, and for no reason at all, it seemed I would just be terrified. So it would be like spasms or bouts of terror throughout the whole thing, you know, and it was awful. I mean, it was really, really bad. So, and I remember I tried to meditate one time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I remember sitting on my bed and I closed my eyes, just sitting there, not really knowing how to meditate. I just read about it, you know, and it was so frightening that I was like, I am never doing that again. It was terrible. I'm like, and I haven't done that again because it was just awful.
It doesn't sound like you need to meditate.
Good, because if I did, I would be in a terrible way.
I think meditation does you. You know?
So I mean, it was there was some fire there, definitely. There definitely was,
Yeah. Well, it seems like everything is speeding up now. There's no more time for people to take the luxury of going for 40 years.
Yeah.
You know, it's times are changing, and
Mm-hmm.
it's important. And I love what you say also. Again, it points to your honesty and your humility as well. We say, I'm not an enlightened being who knows something that no one else knows.
Right.
You know, and it's
Right.
very refreshing. So
Yeah, I'm totally not. And I think about where I came from. I think about, you know, how it was growing up in school and the suppression and oppression of Black people, and you know the hard time, you know, that we have to this day, you know, because of the color of our skin or where we came from, and you know, and with all that, the very deep belief that we're not good enough.
yeah,
You know, I see that, and it's the saddest thing in the world. I mean, it really is. And I see how every day we try to be good enough. All the ways we try to be good enough, even if it's associating with someone who is better than us, if it's getting advice from someone who's better than us, who knows more than we do, if it's, you know, in some way they're more than we are, you know, their humanity is more valuable than ours, you know. I see that, and I want folks to know that's not the case. I mean, there is absolutely nothing different at all. We're exactly the same.
yeah,
Exactly the same.
yeah.
They have,
Yeah, exactly.
the value is there for everybody, the same value. Yeah.
Absolutely. So what would your message be if you had one to you said you were trying to find an African American or an African person who like you who could help you. Now it seems to me like you're it.
And Muji, I like Muji.
What would you say? What would you say to other African Americans, women who are in similar situations that you've been?
I would say first, I know what you're going through. I've gone through the same thing. I know how you feel, you know, which for me was something, you know, that was important to hear. And secondly, you are absolutely fine just the way you are. I know how you feel, and you're absolutely fine just the way you are. Right? Those are the two things, you know, that I would say.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And do you have any way that anything that you would recommend to them as maybe a practice or a way of handling themselves, a way of incorporating what you just said into their lives to make it more tangible for them?
I don't know that there is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that there is. Because based on what I went through, if someone would have told me that, there was so much to the contrary
Yeah.
for those words, that you're fine just the way you are. I could fill a notebook with all the reasons why that is not true.
Mm. Yeah.
I had to be ready and willing to see whether or not that was true.
Yes.
So after that, the next move is theirs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I guess one of the takeaways that I perceive in what you're saying is also to be more self-reliant. Trust your own experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful. That's fantastic. My goodness, it's so wonderful to talk to you after reading your book and speaking to the live being that wrote those beautiful words. And I highly recommend to everyone to read it. It's very inspiring. It really takes you on a wonderful journey. And like I said, there's no fluff in it. It goes straight to the point. I could feel your heart when I was reading it.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could feel your heart, that means I must be in my heart, because the head doesn't feel a heart.
Right.
So it's wonderful. So before we conclude, is there anything else that you would like to tell the world at large? You're talking to the whole world here. People from all over are watching this.
Yeah. Well, I'm just happy to be here. Like in here, like wherever this is, I've discovered an entire community that I had no idea was even, it existed, right? And I'm happy to be here. And in my book, I say one of the things was, where's all the Black people? I'm looking, where are we in this community? So hopefully we can make it more diverse, because I know that we are out there, and we've had these same experiences, and it's not an elitist type thing, where you have to have the money and all of the line of gurus behind you and, all this other kind of stuff. That's not it at all. So I just hope that, me being here will, help increase the diversity of this community, because I think we miss out when we don't have all those differences,
Perfect. Wonderful. And your blogs, are they on your website?
They are, yeah. All my blogs are on my website, yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So I will be on the credits. You'll find Cheryl's website address. Please visit it, and you can find her writings and order her book. I highly recommend it. I think I read it in one day.
Oh, well, it's very short, so.
But it's packed. It is packed. Yeah. That's good.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Cheryl, so much. And thank you, everyone else, for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. It certainly has been a fabulous experience for me. And so thanks again, and God bless, and go fire the concepts of God, whatever they are, and find your own being. That's what I'm getting from what you're saying.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you. Take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.